So this is John. John, for all intents and purposes, wants to run the country because his political organization believes, including him, John, believes that black people cannot govern themselves and black people cannot govern a country, let alone a country. They cannot govern themselves. That's what John believes. Of course, he's not stupid enough to say this in public. No, never said it in public. But their actions, the political organization, they let it slip out.
In this election, for the first time in 30 years, the ANC will lose its majority, but they will do anything to stay in power. Imagine a coalition between the ANC, the violent EFF, and the Zuma faction. Under this coalition of corruption, life will only get worse.
And there you have it, folks. Black people will burn the country and leave it in the ashes, and it's only safe in white hands. We need the help of the DA. Cannot be. You cannot allow these parties to rule. It has to be white. White is good. Black is bad. Remember that, kids. Oh, remember that. I would have given John credit if John actually meant that the ANC cannot rule. But no, not John and his political organization. What they did, they implicated the EFF, another black political organization like Umkhonto weSizwe, which is a newly found political organization. That, the violent one, and this other one, all these political parties is mentioning are black. Of course, with the exclusion of the most political parties that are black, but generally the consensus within his political organization is spilling out in his ideology that black parties are either violent or corrupt. That is the message he's sending across, and the country is only safe in his hands, white hands. Any white person's hands, except for blacks. That is the general consensus in the DA, and that is the general consensus that the white community has in South Africa. And this is a shame because we want to try to build a united, a single identity country, but we have these forces. We have these forces pulling us apart, like the Democratic Alliance, as John displayed. By the virtue of them being black, John and his political organization, they believe they generally have the capability of running the country down into the dungeon, into the ditches, into the drain, into the tubes. That's what John believes, and his political party. But they have a problem. The very same black people they have no confidence in have to vote for them because they're the majority of the country. So they have a predicament here. So they have to make it look good. They have to make it look good, make all sorts of statements, including trying to speak the vernacular of a certain group within the specific country. So,
Dubula Inyanga! And let me tell you, Dubula Inyanga! That's exactly.
So, this shows how detached John is. He doesn't even bother to learn the language. For all his life, he lived in Durban, where the language is spoken by 90% of the population there, but he still cannot speak the language. And he is so detached that he didn't even bother to ask what the phrase means or how to say whatever he wanted to say, because nobody knows what he wants to say. But in general, the phrase he used was saying, "Shoot the traditional healer." Why are you shooting that guy for? So this shows how detached he is from the general public, and he wants those people to be his constituents or to be his electorate. And this is very shameful, and this is never frowned upon within the Democratic Alliance. And none of them, if you think he's the first one, he's not the very first one. Even his predecessor, Helen Zille, Mmusi Maimana's predecessor, Helen Zille, she did the same thing. No, the accent is off. The phrasing doesn't carry any meaning. But for some reason, they believe that black people are stupid enough for them to buy into this thing and actually vote for them. That's what they use. That's the tactic, I believe, they're using. Because black people will see a white person speaking vernacular and be like, oh, we are voting for that party. So that's their stance. And it's really dreadful that we had to deal with this. But also, John is very smart, but doesn't have a formal education. Now, this was contradicts John from running for office, because John doesn't believe anyone who doesn't have any formal education can actually run a government, let alone be serving the bureaucracy of the country. John doesn't believe that anyone with qualifications, with no qualifications, excuse me, can run any institution. But John only has a matric certificate in his name, and that's even doubted that he even has it. But John believes that he can run a country. You know why that is? It's because John is white, and he believes that everything great stems from him being white. He genuinely believes this. John, it's innate in him. You can see the passion when he speaks. John is very confident and arrogant, borderlining arrogance, actually. And yeah, he's very much anti-black. That's another thing. But he wants voters to vote for him. Want black voters, right? But they want him, when I say they, him and his political organization and his comrades, they want to run the country. And they do not see anything wrong with how they portray themselves to the general public of the country. And the latest thing that they did, which I believe was a political assassination, or you can even call it political suicide, because that's what they did campaign themselves severely. Not only did Alan Wind, who was the premier of the Western Cape, actually confessed that they actually took money from health and education, where the country has a crisis with health institutions as well as the education. They took that to put it into security, and the security was not going towards the majority of the Western Cape, which would be the black and the colored dominated areas. No, the majority of the security went to the white community. That's where the money went, to provide security for the whites, for the elite, for the people who have money, for the people who've been running the country and segregating everyone else who is not sharing the same phenotype as them. So that's the predominance that John has. And all this belief stems from one thing, right? Stems from the belief that whites believe that blacks would not have created any technologies or developed any country or created any institutions without their involvement, which justifies colonialism and justifies apartheid as it existed in South Africa. It stems generally from that. Now, what I'm going to do a series of videos showing that majority, and I'm not just talking about a few of the technologies. I'm going to do a series of videos just showing that majority of the technologies that ever were created in this world we live in, globally, not only South Africa, were actually they are all intellectual property of black people. And I'm going to prove it. I'm going to show you a series of videos and the inventions and proof of how these inventions came about and who invented them and how they invented them. Well, probably not how they invented them, but I will show you that who is the inventors of most of the technologies that we enjoy today. And screw John and screw his political organization. Thank you.